In a world reshaped by disruption and driven by innovation, one summit has stood at the forefront of transformation: the Times Group ET Now Global Business Summit. Since 2015, this prestigious platform has brought together the brightest minds, visionary leaders, policymakers, and global pioneers to chart the course of business and society. With India's Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi as a guiding force, GBS has ignited bold conversations, unveiling groundbreaking strategies that drive progress and prosperity. As GBS 2025 takes center stage under the theme Evolve, Emerge, Expand, the world's foremost thought leaders explored the seismic shifts shaping the global economy and shed light on how can nations adapt. How can businesses thrive? How do we expand possibilities in an interconnected world? This is where the future is reimagined.
It's a great pleasure to be talking to Mr. Ruia at the ET Now Global Business Summit, essentially because we are at a pivotal moment when it comes to self-sufficiency, when it comes to our energy requirements. And we were having a small offline conversation about this where Mr. Ruia was pointing out how close we've come now to self-sufficiency. And it's an important piece. But we have a changing world order, Mr. Ruia. We have the Trump administration, and we've heard Mr. Trump go drill, baby, drill. At this point in time, when we're talking about energy transition, we're talking about trade, and energy being a big part of the India-US trade, we're talking about importing more oil, more gas. So when you talk about transiting from fossil fuels to green energy, Mr. Ruia, where are we at right now?
I think we're at a very interesting space. First, fossil fuels, I think we wrote them off too fast. For the last 5-6 years, there's always been a discussion that the era of fossil fuels are over, and we will transition very quickly into the new energy transition fuels or the future fuels. But I think that was a bit overdone, and the reality is that both the fuels, both the energies are required. Over a period of time, there will be a transition.
Right.
There is no doubt that we will continue to move in the direction of a replacement of fossil fuels, but it's not going to happen at the speed or at the pace at which some of our European friends were hoping for it to happen. We today have an opportunity to become self-sufficient in energy. First time in the history. In 50 years, we've always been a big importer of oil and gas. 85% of our energy is imported. And first time we can, because of the new technology, because of solar, because of wind, and because of abundance of sun in India, we have an ability to actually generate our own energy at a very low cost, probably amongst the lowest in the world, but also convert that into products which can be exported, which is why you see a large number of green ammonia, green hydrogen projects, which are all dependent on low-cost renewable power. So if you look at over the next 20 years, we're going to see the percentage of fossil fuels come down slowly, and you're going to see the increase of the new energies over time. And wherever technologies are commercially viable, and where the consumer is not going to pay more, and there are two major ones in India. One of them is solar power, and the second one is electric mobility. I think on both those, we want to go really big, very fast, and because there we have a real opportunity of making the change without being green and at the same time being cost competitive.
We have set a very lofty target, some would argue, 500 gigawatts for renewables by 2030, and we're talking about net zero emissions, and that's by 2070. Do you think these are achievable?
No, I think the solar target is very much achievable. We are already up to 200 gigawatts, and the goal of 50 gigawatts a year is it's high, no question, but it's doable. And I think there's a lot of investment going into this space. And I think electric mobility, you will see, as the battery technology gets better and better, you're going to see, once you can get 700-800 kilometers on a charge, which is not very far away, I think you will see far more adoption because the electric charging capability will be much, the fact that you don't need to charge every day or every few days makes it much easier to own and operate.
When it comes to global cooperation, the key area is climate. And that is the biggest area on which we need global cooperation. That's an opportunity again, because when you talk about India's opportunity to grow and push our exports, where do we stand? Or to be able to draw in investments in this particular field?
It's a massive space and massive point you make. And really, India and China will drive the climate and global agenda, because massive growth and the maximum impact which can happen will happen if India and China adopt faster. And that's where the opportunity lies, because if we can seize that, then we can actually be a driver not only in our growth, but in the whole climate change.
I know you've set a target of 10 gigawatts when it comes to green energy. Tell me exactly how you're going to get there and the opportunity that you're spotting.
Well, ours is, as I said, round the clock. A lot of it is captive for our green hydrogen and for the mobility. All of that requires 24/7 power. That's what we are primarily focused on to meet the requirements which we have captively. Of course, we work with the government and the government schemes. That's part of the deal, but majority would be to meet mobility and hydrogen requirements for renewable.
Well, good luck on the path ahead, Mr. Ruia. Such a pleasure having you here at the ET Now Global Business
Thank you
Summit.
very much.
Thank you. And
Next in line was a very invigorating panel discussion on the topic of the ESG advantage leveraging green mobility to build a sustainable supply chain. Industry experts including BC Tripathi, Vice Chairman, Essar Exploration and Production and Board Member at Essar Green Mobility, opined how Essar Green Mobility is revolutionizing freight with AI-driven electric trucks. Here are some takeaways from the session.
Natasha, how is Mondelez India working towards reducing carbon footprints of its supply chain, particularly in the context of initiatives taken in green mobility and reducing your emissions while producing some of the best products of the country?
Mondelez overall globally, we've aimed at zero carbon emission by 2050. And we have a very strong goal of reducing carbon emissions by 30% by 2027. And again, 50% by 2030. So we look at carbon emissions, specifically talking about logistics. The first thing that we do as an organization very strongly and very seriously is logistics optimization. What I mean by that is my route optimization, distribution network planning. Can we reduce our number of kilometers traveled anyhow? In addition to that, we also look at container utilization, our vehicle fill rates for primary transportation and secondary transportation. These initiatives may look small from the looks of it, but when you actually execute them, they deliver a lot of profitability, not only by cost, but also they are sustainable practices.
Now a question, I think, Mr. Tripathi, to you. So, because I think you have held numerous leadership positions and now with Essar. So how are you seeing Essar Green Mobility contributing to the development of overall green mobility infrastructure in India? If you can just highlight on that.
To support our economic growth, we need a very smart, intelligent and sustainable logistics system. That's a very well accepted fact. If you look at the freight basket, is almost 70% is through the trucking sector in the country, which is basically the guzzler of diesel. And this sector is today almost 4 million heavy trucks are operating on the road, which is growing at a rate of almost 7%. So it's going to be almost 8 million trucks on the road in next 5 to 7 years' time. Yeah. And this is one segment of the transport, which is the heavy emitter of carbon dioxide, which contributes almost 12% of the CO2 emission we have in our economy today. And we are exactly trying to find a solution to address these aspects. And that's why Essar Green Mobility is trying to put a complete ecosystem around this, where we are focusing on all segments. One is the manufacturing of heavy-duty LNG-driven vehicles and the electric vehicles, trucks. of capacity of more than 50 tons for long haul. The second, we are trying to focus and create an infrastructure to provide fuel, LNG, and the power. And the third one is sourcing the fuel, that is LNG and power itself. And the fourth one is owning and operating the large fleet. So along the whole value chain, this whole green mobility business Essar has been launched. We are making LNG-driven trucks, which are almost 50 tons of capacity. In one tank, you can transport uploads up to 1,200 to 1,300 kilometers. We are launching a new product where with the 2 tanks, you can go as long as 2,500 kilometers in one fill and carrying a load of almost 50 tons. Another 2 months from now, we are going to launch the electric truck, and which is also going to be of capacity of 50 tons and above. So this is where the whole green mobility is being structured. And in this, the carbon dioxide emission will be reduced by 30% as compared to diesel. The SOx and NOx are almost zero. In terms of efficiency and optimization of the logistic cost for all the industry, it is almost 25% more efficient as compared to diesel. So that's the economic advantage. And all this platform is riding on a smart digital platform, which is AI-based, where each and every truck is being monitored on a real-time basis for its performance along the route, how driver is behaving, at what speed and which direction he is going, whether he is going to a designated optimized route or not. The performance of engine, how engine is performing, is being monitored online centrally. At the same time, the fuel levels and what next level is required to have the fuel is being monitored on this digital platform. So this whole business has been structured on that, wherein we are trying to provide a carbon reduction to the extent of 30%, SOx, NOx to the extent of 0%, efficiency in terms of operational efficiency is as high as 25%, better than the diesel. Similarly, in terms of operating cost, if you look at apart from efficiency on the LNG system, in the electric system, you will have comparatively much lesser maintenance cost. Yes, the initial capital requirement is comparatively higher, but then in the life cycle cost, in terms of better operation, better efficiency, overall, it is going to give much more neater, cleaner, and economical transport system to the heavy industry. As we speak today, almost 600 trucks are running on the road, and from the time we started, we have almost saved 10,000 tons of carbon emission, which is almost equivalent to almost 3.5 lakh tree plantations. That's the way the business is today, and the plan is to go to an operating fleet of 10,000 trucks, and for which the LNG stations are being built, the electric charging stations are being built. There are initial issues and hiccups which are being addressed. As we go along, as the technology improves, the innovation happens around especially around the battery system. Probably it will also provide similar kind of efficient system. As we have in LNG, you need not to worry for 1,000 kilometers for fueling your truck. In electric truck, you have limitations, but I think going forward, those also will be addressed. So this is the area where GreenLine is operating today.
Well, that's quite ambitious and good to know again. Mr. Mohan, how is the financial sector supporting the transition to green mobility in the India's logistics sector and otherwise as well through its financing options? And maybe you could highlight along the way some of the challenges or some of the opportunities which you see going forward.
See, there are two parts to the funding. One is the wholesale funding, which is more on working capital, more on capex, and there are a whole lot of green bonds, SLLs, and private equity money, which is there, to support these initiatives. There's a whole lot of money which is being invested in R&D, and as we speak, the various startups, various companies, the existing OEMs are, investing great amount of money in terms of parallelly, researching on different technologies. In my mind, I think this space will get a little clearer couple of years down the line. There may be a situation where one technology may leapfrog, and that's the risk that we have from a banker's perspective. In terms of retail funding, which is basically to the end customer, we have seen green mobility going up in two-wheelers from almost 1.5% to 5% of the total vehicles. We've seen it moving up in cars. And I think we are in the early stage in commercial vehicles. Probably less than 0.5% of the total commercial vehicles would run on alternate fuel. The good part really is that there is enough emphasis on the both spectrums. When I say both spectrums, what Mr. Tripathi said is on the 50-ton segment, there is a whole lot of LNG and electric vehicle solutions being talked about. And on the other end, which is the last mile, which is the small commercial vehicle, we've seen a lot of electric vehicles, now getting into the market. So I think that's extremely important because it creates an equilibrium. And if you solve the 55-tonner issue, you can always do a 20-tonner. So that addresses the problem that you can actually take care of the entire spectrum of commercial vehicles in some point in time. So there are, the financial institutions have supported cars, EVs movement, and therefore there are enough, financing options which are on table for the retail customer.
That's about it. So I think, right then, so please join me in, again, thanking and as well as with a round of applause for the esteemed panelists. Thanks for the time.
We're here on the sidelines of the Global Business Summit 2025 in New Delhi, and I'm in conversation with Mr. B.C. Tripathi. Mr. Tripathi, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
My pleasure.
All right. Sir, for sake of some context setting, when we talk about India's green mobility mission, how might you characterize the current landscape, the progress we have yet to make, and Essar Group's role in that entire equation?
So, for a country like the size of India, where we intend to grow 6, 7, 8%, the large logistic and mobility is a very important part to support the economic development.
Of course.
And in that context, the cost of reducing the logistics, how do you reduce the carbon footprint and make it more sustainable is a challenge for the as a country for us. Now, if you look at small scale mobility like scooter, car, a lot of things are happening on to e-scooters, electric vehicles, but not much of the focus on the heavy duty vehicles,
Sure.
which is the largest emitter of carbon dioxide and the guzzler of the liquid fuel, which are the major source of pollution. If you look at our logistics, the trucking is almost 70% of the whole fleet, what we have in the country, which is contributing almost 12% of the CO2 emission in our whole economy. So this is the major area where we need to focus our attention.
Right.
And that's the place where GreenLine Mobility is trying to come out with a specific solution to address all the ecosystem, right from LNG truck, electric truck manufacturing, putting infrastructure for that, and running a large fleet for taking load across the length and breadth of the country. And we are building almost a truck with a capacity of more than 50 tons, running on LNG, which are 30% cheaper in terms of efficiency. They are CO2 reduction by 30%, SOx, NOx are zero. And then this is whole riding a fleet on a digital platform enabled by AI to see and monitor how do you manage a large fleet with the latest technology on a digital platform to bring in all about optimization and the efficiency. So this is the area where probably as a country we need to focus, that how do you reduce your logistic costs, come out with this kind of solutions, which is what we are trying to do in Essar today.
Well, sir, it's very heartening to hear, and we certainly look forward to it, with bated breath. And here we are, of course, at the Global Business Summit, where you have an audience of everyone from policymakers, right, to academia, industry movers and shakers, entrepreneurs, and next-gen millennials who are, wide-eyed when it comes to everything green and clean, right, so to speak. If there was a single message that you'd like to crystallize that you believe will resonate across the spectrum of the audience I've just described, in the context of clean mobility and green mobility, what might it be?
So we have been listening about climate change and the impact of climate change. And people have been saying that, no, we are going to have a climate change in the future. But I would give a message that climate change is here.
Right.
It's right in front of us. So it is high time for all of us to put together how do you bring our economy in a more sustainable path in terms of everybody in the economy. It's not only logistics side and manufacturing side, how we conduct, how we live, how frugal we could be as a society. So that's the major message I would like to give, because we have become a large consumer-based society today. So how do we avoid the waste? How do you go for circular economy? How we make our living styles more sustainable? That's the message I would like to give it to the current generation and the future millennium which you talk.
Well, Mr. Tripathi, I certainly hope that our viewers are listening and it resonates with them loud and clear. We wish you and the larger Essar Group all the very best for what lies ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.
much.